Hello fellow photographers. Are your blue photos making you blue? Do you feel the colors in your photo look unnatural? You might also be completely unaware that something is off and that the colors in your photos aren't accurate at all. I'll be helping you to get natural looking photos by explaining one very important concept in photography: white balance. I'll be telling you what exactly it is, why and how to set it, and then lastly but very importantly, whether you should be setting it in camera or leaving it to editing. I'm Danielle, I'm a pro wildlife photographer in Africa, from Africa, and I lead photo safaris that make you a better photographer while you're having the time of your life on safari. Let's dive in. A quick note, the chapters of the video are listed in the description below, so if you want to skip forward, just click on the relative chapter and it'll take you there. Starting off with the most important fact, different light sources have different colors, or more specifically, they have different degrees of Kelvin. Kelvin is the measurement unit for the color temperature of light. The easiest way to remember it is that light has color and you want your photo to be color accurate for the light you're shooting in. Daylight has a certain color, tungsten bulbs have a different color, shade a different color, as you can see here. More orange or yellow light is referred to as being warm, and more blue light is referred to as being cool. You'll often hear people use terms like white balance, color temperature, and color balance interchangeably. For now, what matters is that we're correcting color casts so colors look natural. When you're taking photos or editing, this is a guideline, not an exact Kelvin number you're aiming for. I look at the photo and I let my eye guide me. So, why does white balance matter? Well, we want our photos to look natural. We want colors to look real. Whites need to look white, blues need to look blue, etc. White egrets need to look white, not blue, not orange. Zebras aren't black and yellow, they're black and white. Unless you're using white balance creatively and setting it for a desired effect. But that's a whole different topic. We're starting with the fundamentals first. We use white to determine correct color balance because white reflects all colors of light equally. In other words, the whites in your scene reflect the source of the light most accurately. That makes it a neutral reference point for your camera to identify and to remove any color casts. If your whites are accurately represented, in most cases, the other colors will also fall into place. Let's look at a few examples. This leopard is in a dense forest. The photo on the left has a much cooler white balance, whereas the one on the right shows the correct white balance. You can see that the one on the left is way too blue. Take a moment to look at just the whites in the leopard itself. Completely inaccurate. The light areas on a leopard aren't blue. The same goes for warmer temperatures. This is early morning light. The photo on the left is much too warm, too orange. Again, look at the white part on the stalk. It's orange. It's not white. The photo on the right shows the most realistic white and therefore gives the most natural look and color representation across the whole photo. One of the most common mistakes I see photographers making is warming up the whole photo with white balance, only for it to look too orange and overdone. Why? Because we all love golden light. But here's the clinch. You can't create warm light if it's not there. That's why being selective with what and when you shoot is so important. I go into detail about this in my video on the 5 most common mistakes photographers make. You get that golden warm light early and late in the day, as you'll remember from this scale. If you want a cooler look, then your subject needs to be in the shade or in overcast light. Here's a curveball. What if there are different light sources in one photo like this one? That does indeed get tricky because suddenly you have one white balance setting in your camera, but you have 2 or more color temperatures in the scene to work with. That's where editing comes in. Although the camera might get it right or give you a good average, it's best to fine-tune it by localized editing with masking, HSL adjustments, and color grading. That's a whole other video by itself. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. Now remember, the camera doesn't truly know what the light source is. It can only make an educated guess based on the colors in the scene. It doesn't know that the light reflecting off the zebra's whites is from midday sun or shade or sunrise light, which all have a different color. That's why it's important to set or correct the white balance. Why do I say set or correct? Because you can either set the white balance in camera, basically telling the camera what the light source is so that it matches, or you can adjust it in editing afterwards. If you decide to change it in camera, you'll see different options in the camera. There's also an auto white balance setting where you leave it up to the camera to decide. There are presets like shade, tungsten, sunny, etc., and you can choose one of those. Here's the same photo with different white balance presets applied, and you're welcome to pause the video to take a closer look. Alternatively, if you're comfortable with Kelvin, you can set a Kelvin number. It can be confusing at first when setting a number because the camera applies the opposite color to neutralize the light. Basically, play around with your Kelvin and observe the effect that it has on the photo. White balance is one of those settings whereby a small change makes a big difference. Which brings me to an important question. Should you set the white balance in camera or leave it and change it in editing after? It all depends on your file format. If you're shooting RAW, white balance isn't permanently baked into the raw data. It's stored as metadata, so you can change it freely and fully in editing without losing quality. That means it's not the end of the world if you don't set it in camera. It will, however, affect your preview on your back screen. Remember that. With JPEG, white balance is baked into the photo when you take it, and a lot of info is discarded in the process. So correcting it later degrades color and tonal quality. So it's best to get it right in camera. In a nutshell, you can't correct white balance very effectively afterwards if you use JPEG. You can, to a small extent, but it's not the best way because you've already lost a great deal of information by taking it in JPEG. Personally, I change between setting a Kelvin and using auto white balance, even when I shoot RAW, which is all the time. Sometimes I feel the Kelvin setting is slightly more accurate, and I like seeing an accurate representation on playback when I'm out in the field. The feedback gives me a good idea of my end result. I don't bother changing the white balance at all if there's limited time, and things happen quickly because there are other settings like focus, shutter speed and exposure that are much more important to get right in camera. I hope that gives you a better understanding of white balance and it helps you to get more natural looking images. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep well, bye bye.